Okay, so what you just heard was one of Steve Marchena's students, who is a teacher of guitar, ukulele, and harmonica. How's it going today, Steve?
Great. How are you doing, Tom?
Pretty good. Um, so, if you could best describe Ivy Music Academy in three words, what would you say?
Fun, artistic, and future-minded.
Awesome. How long have you been involved with Ivy Music Academy, and in what capacity?
Well, I've been teaching guitar lessons for Ivy maybe a little over 8 years, just about since they opened. I've also taught classes at the school itself, and then on behalf of the Ivy Music Academy for Norfolk Recreation and Walpole Recreation. My orchestra was featured at a few different recitals. Tal's Top, I led that orchestra for Ivy. Recently, I produced the audio and video productions for the virtual student recitals. And I wrote the course descriptions. If you go to the Ivy website and check out what's written about the guitar program and the ukulele program, I wrote those for them. So I do a lot of things there.
Cool. Why do you believe music is important for a young person's growth?
Well, I think music is inherently important. Let's start with that. Like, music for the sake of music is important, but there's all kinds of benefits in life from the study of music, and for a young person, things like understanding project management and responsibility are very important. But in general, it makes them aware of everything that's going on around them. I'd say, like, listening is an important skill no matter what you do in life, and it is central to any type of music study.
Good answer. As a guitar, ukulele, and harmonica instructor, is it the love for music that keeps you going, keeps you on this?
Yeah, as I said before, music motivates me to do everything. It is completely central to my life, and passing that along to a new generation is, I think it's probably the noblest contribution that I can make in this world.
Cool. And when students come to you, do they usually have an instrument that they know, or do you help students choose? And how does that process work?
Well, I teach all levels, but let's say if there's a student that has, usually they'll have an instrument when they come to me. But
Okay.
if they don't, then I guess there's two scenarios. One is if they're not sure which instrument they like to study, or if they know which instrument they would like to study, but they don't have that instrument yet. So if somebody wants to study guitar or ukulele, I should say, like, full disclosure, I'm a product ambassador for the company Ortega Guitars, and I know a lot about their line and their instruments. So I'll let the students know about that. Beyond that, I would say that there's a sort of a couple of criteria that people will consider in choosing an instrument, and one of them, I guess you might say, like, comfort and ease of play. I understand why people choose instruments based on that, but that's not really what I advocate for. What I want to know, when a student is trying to pick an instrument, for example, between a nylon string guitar and a steel string guitar, I will demonstrate a variety of techniques on both instruments. And then on one hand, I can ask them what they think, but I don't even have to, because if you watch the student's expression, you can see the light bulbs going off, right? So you'd be able to tell very quickly if they were more inclined to want to start on a nylon string guitar, for example, or a steel string guitar. I would discourage people from making their decisions about which instruments they play based on things like comfort, right? Because no matter how comfortable it is, if it's not inspiring you enough to practice every day, you won't wind up with a good relationship with that instrument. So I would say, let the students' ears be the judge. And if they love the sound of, for example, steel string guitar, or they love the sound of a chromatic harmonica, or whichever sound they want, I'll steer them in that direction.
That's actually a really good explanation of that.
Okay.
So what would you say is the most rewarding part of being involved with Ivy Music Academy?
Well, they've got a great clientele. I'll tell you that all of my students practice, and I'm flexible enough as a teacher. Again, to goes back to that listening skill, right? I will pay attention to what inspires them, and there's fundamentals of music, but there's many different ways to assimilate those fundamentals. So if a student loves Led Zeppelin, or a student loves Taylor Swift, or a student loves Beethoven, I'll steer them in that direction. So maybe the first thing that I'd say is all my students practice, which I feel very lucky for that. And then Todor and Vaska, who run the school, they're great to work with. They say what they're going to do, and they do what they say they're going to do. So it's a great professional relationship there as well.
That's awesome. And I know we've touched upon this a little bit, but aside from learning music and the instrument itself, what other skills develop in playing an instrument and developing one's music skills?
Well, so aside from all the benefits, sort of the pure benefits of music, the one thing I'd say is that listening is a crossover skill, where you need that skill to play music. But as I said before, you need that skill really for anything that you're ever going to do in life. So maybe I'm going to say listening is number one. But in general, I'd say that the study of music makes the students better critical thinkers. It certainly teaches patience. Let me say something about patience that is counterintuitive about playing a musical instrument. Is very often when a student wants to play a piece, one of the early goals is to pick up the tempo and play it at the original speed. Now, this is very counterintuitive, because if you have the patience to practice the music slowly and deliberately, where you're giving your brain the time to process what you know what it's like, Tom? It's like throwing darts. We'd all like to be able to throw whatever's in a handful of darts, 10 darts maybe, and have them all hit the bullseye. But the reality is, even if you come very close to the bullseye, if it's a little bit low, a sane person wouldn't respond by instantly throwing more darts right after that. When they know it's a little low, then they have to think about what they did right. Maybe it lined up, vertically with the bullseye. So they know, okay, I don't need to go left or right, but maybe it was a little low. So I need to, if I think about where I think I need to throw the dart, I need to kind of overshoot that a little bit to get the result that I want. So this all ties in with patience. Anybody that gets anywhere with a musical instrument has to develop patience. And as I said before, it's counterintuitive, because maybe I'll say when I was 15 years old, my big goal is I wanted to play very fast on the guitar. And it was probably the most important life lesson that I learned, was that until I was willing to devote the time and practice slowly and methodically, I didn't develop, a clean technique. Once I realized, okay, in order to play fast, I have to be patient, and I have to give myself time. Like with the darts, you throw the dart and then you recognize, okay, what could I do differently? You give your brain time to think. When you play through Beethoven's Moonlight Sonata very slowly, and you notice that, one of those notes didn't sustain. That's the thing. If you played it quickly, you probably wouldn't notice when a certain note didn't sustain. It would just be your playing was just always a little sloppy. But if you practice it slowly and you exercise patience, you'll master that music. It goes without saying that patience is an important skill, like listening, in anything else that you do in life. The recitals that Ivy gives on many different levels, that teaches public presentation skills, which again, no matter what you wind up doing in life, that can be important. And then on a deep level, I can tell you that there's really no difference between music and math, okay? The notes, the pitches that you hear, they're all related to fractions. So a lot of times, to understand how music works better, there are mathematical explanations for that. And math is something that, again, no matter what you do, you'll wind up dealing with math in some way. And then for people that dislike math, I would pitch this idea. If you have the patience to study it and understand it on a level that you become comfortable with it, then in your life you don't really feel bogged down by the math. But you kind of have to embrace it initially. So math is another thing that students can gain some understanding of through the study of music.
That's awesome. I actually used to play oboe for quite some time when I was younger, and I can totally agree with all of what you said. It definitely helps me with those things that you've mentioned.
That's all. The other thing that we didn't mention, because you said outside of music, but if somebody has never played a musical instrument and they listen to an ensemble, like maybe a studio recording or a live recording, all these different instruments, they're like pieces of a jigsaw puzzle. But if you haven't studied music, it's very likely that you don't see the pieces. You see the big picture, and that's beautiful. But by studying a musical, for example, if you heard oboe in a piece of music, now you're going to understand something about the technique that goes into that. You're going to understand, the challenges that are involved. And I think that because of that, you're going to have a deeper appreciation and understanding of the music you're listening to.
Definitely. Is there any final message you'd like to send to the Norfolk community?
We love you at the IB Music Academy. We love you, and I want to thank the Norfolk community, because obviously this has been a crazy year, and they've embraced. All of my lessons now are online, and that's a big adaptation for everyone. But I want to thank them for coming along for the ride, and it just gets better from here.
Awesome. And I think we have a clip from another one of your students, so we'll roll that right now.
Excellent. Thanks so much, Tom.